I hope you are fine. Okay, start our lecture now. Our today's lecture will be introduction of software. We will discuss what is the software. Then we will discuss the types of software. Then briefly we will discuss the methodologies that we can use to make the application softwares. These methodologies, we will be discuss these methodologies in detail in the coming lectures. So today's lecture, we will discuss two types of software, system software and application software. So we can differentiate between these two softwares. And then we will discuss the software development methodology, and we will discuss why we are using the software methodology or why it is important to use the software methodology. Before going to the detail, we will discuss what is software. The basic components of any computer is software and hardware. Hardware means the components that we can see in the front. That can be a mouse, that can be a keyboard, that can be a monitor. The physical components of a computer is are the hardware components. Now, whenever we have to use any hardware, we have to give instructions to our system. If we are not giving any type of instruction, computer is a machine, we cannot be able to do any work on the machine. Although we have to give the instructions by ourselves, but none of us is professional person. Highly professional person only can give the instructions to the hardware. So developers have developed the softwares in which they have written the set of instructions, procedures, programs, and different type of data has written inside the software according to the need of hardware. Like if we are using the printer, we have to write different type of instruction. If we have to use a keyboard, we have to write different type of instruction, different type of routines, different type of procedures. So we are not there is no need to give instructions separately for all the user or for the new users. So we can say that the developers of the software give us a easiness or facility through which we can use the hardware in an effective way. So we can say that in hardware contrast, we are using the software. So as I told, hardware means the physical components of computer. Whenever we are using the software, as we know, we are using the peripheral devices with our system. In peripheral devices, we are using the memory devices, we are using input output devices. These are our peripheral devices. We are using the storage devices. So it is the responsibility of software to control, to direct, or to give instructions to all the peripheral devices. These softwares tell the peripheral devices how they can perform a specific task, how they can do their work. So we can say that software lies between the user and the hardware. The user is not directly communicating to the hardware. The user is giving instructions or giving commands towards the software, and the software is handling the hardware, because hardware has complex details and only professionals can handle the hardwares. So it is very necessary to use the software in between the user and in between the hardware. So we can say that in the absence of software, a user essentially can't do any task on the computer. Now we will discuss how a software can work. As we know, first of all, we have to give the instructions to our computer, or we are pressing any key, we are pressing any button from the keyboard. In the background, the software is executing that instructions, are executing that set of actions that we are performing. So in the background, we can say that in computer language, we can say that the software's responsibility is to do the processing on the data that we have given. Like we have entered 2 plus 2. Now how the computer will add 2 plus 2, it will be the responsibility of software. We are writing inside the calculator 2 plus 2. So in the digital calculator, that in the background, different type of softwares are working, and these set of instructions tell the device or the calculator how they can perform the addition, how they can perform the subtraction, or any other activity that the user is trying to do. So those instructions are written in the code that can only understandable by the computer. That is a binary code. As we know, computer is an electronic machine, and in the electronic machines, we can only present two states, on state and off state. So we are using the binary language in which we are using the 0 and 1 to explain on state and off state. So the computer can only understand these set of instructions. So the machine can only perform the operations according to these instructions. So at the core of all the software is a logic. We can say that the principle is that we are giving the instructions in form of data or in form of input, and the software is doing the processing. And after the processing, our peripheral devices, our output devices will display the results. That means the output devices are displaying the output on the screen or on the printer or on the fax machine. We can use any type of media to display our results and our outputs. It is just another term of computer program. Like software, whenever we are writing or we can say that the collection of program is a software, or whenever there is and the instructions are in more amount, or instructions are more complex, we can say that that is a software. Or simply sometimes the program is also called the software, but because program is also set of instruction and our software is also a set of instructions, so both terms can be used in the computer for the set of instructions. So we can say that sometimes software is also called program, or program is also called the software. Whenever we have to use any program, either it is a paint program, it is a word program, word processing program, any type of program needs set of instructions to do the work. So we have to give the data, we have to input different things, that information or that data we are giving to the program, that is called over input. As we discussed in the previous slide, there are the three basic functions that we are performing inside the computer, that is input, processing, and output. Like I told you an example, in the calculator we are giving or we are typing 2 plus 2, that is over input. And when the addition function will be performed on 2 and 2, that will be over processing, and 4 will be over output. So for another example, like whenever we are tapping on our phone, we are touching our touch screen, so it can ask different, like we can open any game, we can open any web browser, we can open any application store. So different series of questions will be asked whenever we have to do any activity, or different these series of questions are based on the set of rules. For example, when we should tap on the print button, there can be any question, either we want to continue or cancel. So if we want to continue, the output will be over print, and if we will cancel the result, or if we cancel our action, it will cancel over activity. Nothing will be displayed on screen. It will go back to the main screen. So we can say that after these series of steps or series of questions, we will get the output. So your printer get active when receive the signal and the invoice pops up out of the tray. So if we will continue towards the printing, we will receive the invoice or anything, or any document that we have given a command to print that document. So basically there are two main types of software. The first one is system software and the second one is application software. System software, the main software that is related to our system. We have to give the input, we have to type different things, we have to store different data, we have to receive open different type of programs, we have to handle different type of programs. So these activities are related to our system. Whenever we have to manage our system, whenever we have to handle our system, control our system, either that system is related to the hardware or that system is related to memory, or that system is related to any peripheral devices. So we have to interact with the computer by using the system software. So we can say that it will manage the behavior of computer hardware in order to offer the basic functionalities which are needed by the user. Like whenever we are pressing any key from the keyboard, the pressed key should be, and the result of pressed key should be displayed in Microsoft Word document. So that is the functionality we need by our keyboard. So the system software will do the work in the background. It will send the signals to the CPU, and the CPU will display that A on the screen. So that the functionality in the background, we are not doing any work, we are only pressing the key, but in the background the system software is doing the work and displaying the characters we are pressing by using the keyboard. So in simple word, we can say that system software is intermediator between the user and the hardware. So we can say that there is a layer between the hardware and the user, that is our system software. So it provides an environment in which other softwares can work easily. Like we are running paint program, we are running any game, we are running any word processing software, we are writing any presentation. So these are other programs. If we have no system software installed inside the system, we cannot able to use any other software. So it only give the interface or the environment that enables our machine to run other software smoothly inside the machine. So it is the reason why system software is quite important in the management of entire computer, because we are not writing any instruction how we have to give signal towards by the keyboard, how and where we have to save the file, either the space is available or not, in which cell of memory we have to upload the file. So these there are a lot of instructions that are not given by us. The system software is responsible to manage these set of instructions on behalf of the user. So whenever we will turn on the computer, the first thing that is loaded inside the computer memory, that is over software, system software, because it will display over desktop. It will display all the names of the programs or the softwares that we have installed inside the computer. It will display the time. It will display the date. Everything will be displayed by the system software. So we can say that first of all, we have to upload, or we have to add the system software inside the computer, and then we have to run anything, or we can execute any program. Our system software essentially runs in the background, and it is actually utilized by the end users. In the front, we can't see which type of programs are running, but only the machine have the idea which programs are helping the users to do their routine work. So due to this reason, the system software is also known as low level software. The examples of system software are operating system, device driver, firmware, and utility softwares. We will discuss these examples or types one by one. The most prominent or most important example of system software is operating system. It is essentially a collection of software which handles the resources as well as offers general service for various other applications which actually run over them. Like we can say that all the resources, either that is a hardware resource, that is a memory, that is any device, that is display. So these resources are handled by the operating system. So the basic functions, displaying date, displaying time, displaying the desktop, that will be done by the operating system. So different type of operating system we are using. These operating systems can be used by as we know, we have different types of computer we are using in our daily life. and these type of computer have different type of functionalities. So according to their functionality, according to their use, we are using different type of operating system. So these operating system include embedded, real time, distributed, single user, multi user, mobile, internet, and much more. Like in embedded software, we are using a computer support machine like ATM machines, traffic lights. These are the embedded operating system. In the background, we are using the operating system that is embedded operating system. We can say that that is not a full form of our computer, but only we are using the processor or some of the functionality for doing any automated work, like the traffic lights automatically on the specific time and gets off after some time. We can use the real time operating system like in alarming system, whenever we have to give the alarm or warning to inside any factory if the temperature is high or anything happens, when we have to respond in emergency situations. In these type of systems, we are using the real time, like in fire alarm, we are using the real time operating system. Whenever we have to distribute anything, any data inside the employees or inside the office, we have to use the distributed operating system. In the desktop computers, in the laptop computer, we are using the single user operating system. Whenever we are talking about the servers, we are using the multi-user operating system. In mobile, we are using the mobile operating system. In internet, we are using different type of operating system, and different other operating systems can be used, and we have to choose the operating system according to our need. We can use the full stack web development services to develop the apps to operate on the mobile. So we can use the operating system like Android or iOS. So we are using, by using different techniques, we are developing these type of operating systems. Now, examples of operating system are MS Windows, Mac operating system, Linux, iOS, Android, Cent operating system, Ubuntu, Unix. These are the different type of operating system we are using. The most popular operating system is Mac and MS Windows. Android is also popular in the mobiles. So we are using different type of operating system according to our need. We have to choose one of them. Now the next one is device drivers. Devices are the hardware that we are using in with along with our system, like mouse, keyboard, printer, scanner, monitor. These are the device. Now in the background, along with these devices, we have to use the drivers, or we have to use the softwares that control that are these software have a set of instructions that will control the device that is attached to that driver. Or we can say that whenever we have to use like we have to use the printer, so we have to install the driver of the printer. If we are not installing the software for that printer, we will not be able to use that printer. If we have to use the scanner, we have to use the driver for it. So these are the software that are responsible to handle the devices that are attached to these drivers. So these drivers can be the display drivers, printer drivers, sound card drivers, hard disk drivers, keyboard and mice. Everything or any hardware we are using, any device we are using along with our computer that needs a driver, that needs a software, that needs a set of instructions. So these set of instructions will handle that device or that hardware. Now, examples of drivers are BIOS driver, motherboard drivers, display drivers, ROM drivers, printer drivers, USB driver, sound card driver, VGA driver. So for every hardware, we have to use a software along with that hardware. Firmware, it is actually a permanent software which embedded in system's read-only memory. Like we have a memory inside the system on which we can only write the instruction only once. That instructions are written by the manufacturer of the computer, and that is related to the system for the starting of the system. As in to start the system, before loading the system software, we have to load some of the instruction that leads us towards the display. So we have to write some of the instructions on the memory. We have to write these instructions on read only memory. So these are the instructions that permanently store on the hardware. It offers vital information regarding how a particular device interacts with different other hardwares. Like if we the keyboard is wants to give command to the printer, how it can give or how it can communicate with the printer. If printer wants to communicate with the CPU, how the printer can communicate with the CPU. So these type of software are known as firmware. Now the examples are computer peripherals, embedded system, BIOS, basic input output system. So this type of instructions are written on the read only memory on the ROM. Utility software. In utility software, it will enhance the working of the computer. If we have to add the functionality, the after the basic functionality, we have to add more functionality inside our computer system. We have to use the utility software. These softwares are designed to assist, to analyze, and to optimize, and to configure and to maintain our computer system. So it will give the support to our computer infrastructure. So in that utility software, we can use the cleanup and management tools, antivirus softwares, fragmentator softwares, compression softwares. So different type of functionalities can be added by using these softwares. Examples are Norton antivirus, Mac-free antivirus, WinRAR, WinZip, Windows File Explorer. These are the functionality. These softwares will add extra functionality inside the computer. So these was the types of system software. So we can say that the basic functionality of the system will be handled by the system software, and any type of system software play its own role for the management, for the control of our basic system or over basic hardware. Now by using the basic systems will not be sufficient for each and every user, as each and every user has their own use, their own needs. Businessmen use different type of tools, or they have to do different type of work. Students have to do different type of work. Doctors have to do different type of work. And as we know, computers is a general purpose machine. Every person will can be get benefits from the computer. So the computer scientists have different type of softwares that will help us to do our routine tasks. So according to the choice or need of end users, different categories of softwares are designed. These type of softwares are known as application software. If we are not installing any type of application software on our computer, it will not be affect the working basic functionality or basic working of computer. It will not disturb any hardware component. So we have to use the application software according to our need. When we have to make any document, we have to make any research, we have to make any notes, we have to design any graphics, we have to maintain any account, we have to carry out any calculation, or even we have to play the games, we have to play the audio or video on the computer. We have to install different type of application software inside the computer. Now, as we discuss, the system software lies between the end user and between the hardware. Now, above the application software, the system software application software lies. So we can say that the user is communicating with the application software is communicating with the system software, and the system software is in and directly communicating with the hardware. So there are the two layers between the hardware and between the user. We are not directly communicating with the hardware. So they are actually used by the end users as well as have some because it has a specific functionality according to the users, and according to any for any specific purpose they are designed. So they only perform that function. So and they are often developed through the custom software development based on the requirements of the user. Examples of journal examples are word processors, database software, multimedia software, and the web browsers. We will discuss these one by one. Now, word processor. Word means whenever we have to make any documents, that can be a text-based document, or we can embed the pictures inside the document or inside the text. Like whenever we have to compose any report, or we have to compose any type of book, or we have to create summary about any details, we have to use the word processor software. As the name indicate, it will give the functionality to handle the text or pictures in more effective way. So we can um, create the document, we can edit the document, we can format the document, we can even print the document, and we can save these documents for the future use. So examples of processing software are MS Word, Apple iWork Pages, Corel Word Perfect, and Google Docs. Database software, whenever we have to store different values, like we have to store the data of the students, we have to store the data of the employees, we have to use the databases. That in the databases, it provides a table and the structure through which we can easily store the values inside the computer. And whenever we have to give we have to use any type of data, we have to give the query. Like we can say that want to see how many persons are at how many employees have age above 50. So we will give the query age greater than 50, so that database tool will be display only the employees that have age more than 50 years old. So we have different that software to store, not only store the data, we can search different type of data, or we can give different queries by using that software. Some examples of database management software are MS Access, FileMaker, DBase, Clipper, MySQL, Fox Pro. These are the tools by which we can not only store the data, we can also manage our data. Multimedia software, we have different type or different forms of data inside the computer. Like we have text, we have audio, we have videos, we have images. So whenever we have to play or create the record, we have to record or we have to combine different images, and we have to give an audio background of these images, or even we have to edit any video, or we have to give animations to the video, or we have to add different type of functionality into the video, or even only we have to play the video or audio. These type of softwares will be used. So these softwares are utilized for the animation, video editing, graphics, as well as image editing. So these type of softwares are known as multimedia softwares. Some examples are Adobe Photoshop, Picasa, VLC Media Player, Windows Media Player, Windows Movie Maker. So different type of softwares we are using nowadays. Web browser. Whenever we have to search anything from the internet, we have to use the browser. So that is a software that give us the facility to search anything from the internet. If we want to search any website on the internet, so we have to use the web browser. So it will assist users in locating as well as retrieving data well across the web. As we know that all the data will has stored on the internet in form of websites. So some web browsers are Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer, Opera, UC browser, and Safari. Now, classification of software according to the availability. Either the software is available free of cost, or we have to pay some of the money, or we can make changes inside the software or not. So according to the availability of the software, there are three classifications of the software: freeware, shareware, and open source. Freeware means totally free of cost. User can download that software by the internet, and he or she don't need to pay any charges or any fee for that. software, but we can only use that software. We have no ability, or we have no authority to modify or make addition or make editing inside that software. So, and we cannot charge any fee if we are distributing that software. So a best software development company can develop its own freeware to reach out more customer. Like whenever we are using the online banking, they are giving their app and websites that are available free of cost towards their customers. So whenever they want to attract their customers, they are paying and they are giving their application to the customer. That application is a freeware because we don't have to pay any cost whenever we have to install that application. Some examples are Adobe Reader, Skype, ImageBurn, TeamViewer, Viewer, Yahoo Messenger. So these all softwares are available free of cost. Whenever we have to download these softwares, we have not to pay any fee for the registration or for the upgradation. Shareware, these are distributed freely to the users, but the availability of these softwares will not be forever. After some time, like after 4 weeks, after 8 weeks, after 6 months, we will not be able to use that software free of cost. We have to pay the fee for the continuous use of that software. So to attract the customer, they will give that software to the customer that will be free of cost for some time. When we can judge that software will be beneficial for us, or that is a reliable software, we have to pay the fee to continuous use of that software. So because their license will be expired after the fixed number of period. That number of period can be in 2 weeks, in 1 week, in 1 month, in 6 months. After that time of period, we have to pay the cost for that software. So some example of shareware are PHP debugger, WinZip, and GetRight. Open source, as name indicates, open source software means these softwares are not only available free of cost as freeware software, but in freeware software, we will not be able to make any changes inside that software. We have to use the software only. We will not be able to make any change in the code. But open source software, their source code files, like the code that are written by the developer of that software, will be available for any user. The source code is available, and if user want to make any changes to that software, we can make the changes. So they have given you the basic functionalities of that software. If we want to make change any if you want to make any change according to your need, you can add the additional features in that software. And then, like, a company is making changes to that software, and then they will distribute that software towards their employees. So we can not only make the change in that software, we can also distribute that software. And whenever, after changing, whenever we are distributing that software, we can charge for that software, or either we can distribute that software free of cost. Some example of that software are Mozilla Firefox, Thunderbird, and Apache Web Server. Any one of you can differentiate between application software and system software, as we discussed the both types, and also we have discussed the subtypes of the softwares.
Yes, ma'am. The system software is for like it mostly used for the system. Like the user doesn't have anything to do with the system software, but the application software is made to do some task
Okay.
by the users.
Okay, good. Okay, now we will go towards the methodologies. Software development methodology, like different type of application software are designed by over developers, or sometimes by computer specialists. We have to develop different websites, we have to develop different type of apps. So these are the software. So to develop any software, we have to follow different methods, different methodologies, because these methodologies will give us a layout, or we can say that a different set of steps can be given by these methodologies, so it will make our work easier. So now we will discuss the software development methodologies. Now, first of all, what is meant by software development methodology? That is the methodology or the structure or the set of steps that we have to follow whenever we are working on a project or whenever we have to design any software. So we can say that in the methodology, we are not only talking about the design philosophies we have. Software development methodology is a system in which we have to follow a systematic way or number of steps, different design or different techniques. By using these techniques, we can effectively design a new software. So the goal is of the software development methodology is to provide a systematic approach to system development. It will provide the planning. It will provide how we can go towards the development, in how we can implement all our tools, how we can maintain our software after the development. So it have different type of phases. In each phase we have to follow different type of steps, and by following these steps we can easily overcome the flaws that can be caused if we are not following the methodology. So throughout the years, different type of software development methodologies are introduced. So according to the need, we are making additions inside the methodologies, or we are changing different type of methodology because we have to compete the market. Also we have to update our technology, our methodologies according to the technologies and the resources. So it provides a platform for the developer to work together, to work more efficiently as a team. So it will give details or the guidelines how we can communicate effectively when it is required to set up the meetings, when it is required to discuss the details, and when we have to discuss different type of progress of our project, how we can divide project into sub tasks. So which person will do which type of tasks, so easily we can work as a team. So it formalizes communication and determines how information is shared within the team. So different IT companies agree whenever we have to use the software development methodology, and we have to choose any methodology because there are number of methodologies are available, so it is very difficult to choose one of them. So still it is a question which methodology is best. So according to our need, we have to choose the methodology because each methodology has its positive side and its negative side. So choosing the best methodology depends on the team structure, how much members we have short team or we have a lot of team members, how much requirements we have, what is the state of our budget, what is the state of our technology, what is the goal, how much time we have for a project. So by using these circumstances we can decide that which of the methodology will suits us. So it also possible to use different software development methodology for different projects. So why we have to use the methodology? If we are not using the methodology, we cannot do our work in a better way. So as we know, choosing the methodology is very difficult. And not only choosing the methodology, we have to follow each and every step of that methodology at every phase or at every time. It is also implementation of that phase methodology is also a difficult task for the team members. But if we are not following the methodology, there will be a risk of failure whenever we are working without any planning and without any structure. We have no direction, so the developer can suffer from the customer's ever-changing request, and even more when there is the miscommunication, because we have no idea when we have to communicate with the customer, when we have to sign an agreement with the customer, which are the features we are going to provide to our customer, and customer is also not well familiar which type of software we are presenting to them. So it will give us, whenever we are displaying the final product to our customer, it will demand a lot of changes after the development. So it will take a lot of time, lot of effort, and sometimes our customer will not be satisfied with our project. So it will go towards the loss or the failure. So this leads to the frequent revision in the software without considering the overall implications of the project. So as a result, it will waste our time, money, and effort, and there will be a risk that it will not be go towards the success, or it will not meet the goals of any company. So software development methodologies are developed to benefit both the developer as well as to the it will give different benefits to the customer. It will not waste the time of the customer, as the customer at the start have the idea, and after sometimes the developer will arrange the meetings according to the methodology, and they will be aware about the progress of the project. So choosing the right methodology ensures that the discussions are conducted on the proper channel and decisions are made after evaluating all the factors, because in that methodologies these methodologies have the guidelines how we can take different type of decisions. So using a methodology allow a team to cut down inefficiency and provide more accurate delivery time, because we have to decide how much time is required for each task, because we are dividing a main project into the subcategories or in the sub modules. So it prevents the team for reacting to every input, but instead allow them to more organized and structures when designing any change or adding any change or making any addition or editing. So now we will discuss some common methodology. We will briefly discuss these methodologies. In other words, we can say that in today's lecture, I will give the introduction of these methodology only, and after that, we will discuss these methodologies in detail. We will discuss the steps of all the methodologies. What are their steps? What are their advantages? What are their disadvantages? When we have to use which type of methodology. So in detail, we will discuss these methodologies one by one. Some common methodologies, as we know, there are a lot of methodologies, so we have to make the choice from that methodology. So most of the methodology fall can be categorized as either the waterfall, iterative, or continuous model. In waterfall model, we have to go in one direction. There is no backward direction, as the water flow in one direction only. So we can say that the waterfall method means we are going first step will be completed, then we will move towards the second step, then we will move towards the third step, and so on. We are not going back to step number one. In iterative manner, we have to divide over task into subtasks. First of all, we have to apply all the steps to first task, then we will go towards the second task, then we have to go towards the third task. So we can say that that is a iterative manner. And in continuous model, we have to give the time, or some models we have to choose. So in continuous way we are working, or parallelly we are working. Our waterfall methodology means we are following a fixed sequence or fixed number of step, but that is a rigid methodology. So it is a sequential method that was very popular in the starting days, but and because that is the rigid, and in the last some of projects will go towards the failure, as that there is no flexibility in that project, and if the user demands any type of change, we cannot make a change in that methodology. In iterative model, it offers the alternatives for software development, and it provides the it will not we are not focusing too much on the documentation, we are working on the development. It uses multiple sprints to quickly build a test ideas to ensure they are relevant to the user. So we are dividing the project into the chunks. These are over sprints, such as problems get fixed early. Whenever we are dividing our problem into sub problems, and we are working on a single task, and then we are displaying the result of that task to the customer, and customer can pinpoint the problems, and fixing that problem in a single task is easy as compared to fixing the problems in the end of the project when we have completed all the project. Agile and Scrum are two of the most popular iterative software development methodologies. These are the name of the methodology. In the continuous model, we can say that we are that are inspired by the Toyota production system. It is about minimize break are ensuring the flow between the different phases of the development. So we are following 2 or 3 phases, but in the continuous way. The goal of the continuous software development approach is to avoid the wastage and improve the efficiency of various phases. So we are minimizing over time at the cost. We have to focus either we want to minimize over time, or we have to minimize over cost, or we have to minimize over resources. So according to that, we have to follow the important step only. There are 8 most popular software development methodology. Now we will discuss these methodology one by one. The first one is agile development methodology. That is the most popular software development methodology that we are using in recent days. It takes a different approach from the conventional linear method. Like, it is very different from the waterfall method because we can make changes. We can say that that is a flexible methodology. In agile, we can have to focus on the satisfaction of our customer. We are not only working on the documentation, we are writing each and everything. We only working on the development. So with agile, tasks are broken into the short sprints, or we can say that in the small pieces that take about 1 to 4 weeks to complete. So we have to design our modules in such a way that it can take only 1 month, maximum 1 month for the completion. So it's an iterative model that involves multiple tests as the development progresses. Like, if we have completed the first sprint, we will test and that module, and if there is any error, we will correct that errors. Then we will go towards a task number 2. So developers continuously seek feedback from the customer. We will represent each and every task to the customer, and we will receive the feedback from the customer, and if they want any change, we will make the change. So communication is the priority in the agile, as we have to satisfy our customer. So making the communication with the customer is priority of agile model. So our customer will be satisfied customer. Waterfall methodology means that was an older methodology, but still some of for some projects we are using when we are sure about the software. Like some commonly used software, like we have to generate create a calculator, we have to create a Word document, like document, so in which the interface and mostly things are decided, are not complicated. We have sure about the results, or we are some about some of results are sure. So we are very much have idea, or we have a grip on our requirements. We can follow the waterfall method development. So we can say that when the changes are not demanded by the customer, or we know that there is no changes can might be required, so we can use that methodology. That is a linear methodology in which we have to follow different stages in sequence. We are not dividing our task into subtasks. So waterfall development methodology is easy to understand because we have to focus on one task at the same time, which make it popular for the developers which have less design experience. So each stage must be completed before we are moving to the next. As I told, we are not going backward. For example, all the requirements must be decided before we are going towards designing our software. Just like how water falls in one direction, there is no going back in this approach. This makes waterfall non-flexible flexible methodology, because if we want to make any change, it will not be easy for us. Lean development methodology. Lean development is born out of lean manufacturing principle by Toyota. It focuses on minimizing the wastage and increasing the productivity. Like we have to minimize the time, or we have to minimize the resources, or we have to minimize our budget according to our need. We have to minimize the wastage. We only have to choose the tasks that are very important for us. With the guiding principle, developer avoid non-productive activities while delivering quality in their task. Like we are not focusing on the decoration of the website, we are only giving the functionality, or we will focus on the functionality, not on the decoration of the website. So we have to work on the main things that are important for us. So we can say that it will emphasizes on the continuous learning and defragment of the decision. So it empowers team to keep an open mind during the course of development and consider all factors before finalizing a decision. Whenever we have to take a decision, we will discuss each and every alternative, we will discuss each and every technique, and then we will choose best of them. So we will take much time whenever we have to take our decision. So we in the result we will go towards more qualitative work. With a lean methodology, developer are task to identify bottlenecks that could hamper the process. So sometimes we can stuck to any decision. So the goal is to establish a efficient system that works flawlessly. So because we are taking too much time for making the decisions and we are taking the best decisions, so in the result we will develop a efficient software. So this methodology emphasizes on the human aspect, which means the communication is key of enhancing team collaboration. Because whenever we have to go towards a new thing or new task, we have to discuss over all work and decisions with our team. Prototype model, we will generate a model before the final project, or we can say that we are creating a dummy model of that project that are the demand of our customer, and we will display that dummy model or 3D model to our customer. And if our customer is satisfied with that model, we will continue towards the development. If the customer demands any change, we have to make the change in that prototype. So the benefit of that model is the in the beginning, the customer will be sure about the final product. So the success rate will be higher. So we can say that instead of developing a full-fledged software, a prototype model will be used. A prototype means we are generating a dummy model, or we can say that 3D model. So based on the gathered feedback, the prototypes goes through the several iterations. Like different type of refinements can be made in that model. So there is no limit how much changes will be demanded from the customer. Maybe sometime 10 times or 20 times we have to make changes in the prototype. And we can say that it is hard to evaluate how much when we will start our designing. So this approach success lies not only on the development team, but also it will tell how well we communicate with the customer in carrying out the test. Because we have to give suggestions to the customer, and we will present that model in better ways so the customer will be can be satisfied with that. So it is also worth mentioning that if the customer is not satisfied and our model will not be approved by the customer, we have to bear the cost of building that prototype. Rapid application development. The rapid application development model was introduced in 1991 and served as a foundation of modern iterative framework. It focused on getting products built in much shorter time. Whenever we have less time for formation of any project, we have to use that model in which we have to use only 4 steps. We have to go towards the gathering the requirements, prototyping, testing, and implementation. We are not going towards the documentation, planning, and other maintenance phases. When we have less time for development, we will go towards the RAD model, and we are using some of the codes that are ready to use. Different routines are available, or we have to use a language in which most of the code is available, or we will can use different type of routines that are available, or we can purchase the code from different companies. So it will be a costly model, or the costly methodology, but whenever the time is not sufficient for the development, we have to choose that model. So this is done through the multiple iteration until the customer is happy with the result. So testing of prototype result is valuable feedback. When, like in prototype model, we also have to build the prototype in that, but we are minimizing the steps. So using the RAD leads to high chances of successful product release within the specific time. So that is often use development tools that could be automate and simplify the development process because we have less time. Dynamic system model, it inherits some of the principle from RAD model, but now we are working on the four phases, but we will try to minimize our budget because in RAD it will take a lot of budget. So we will try to reduce the price. So it features four iterative phases of feasibility and business study, functional model design and build, and implementation. So phases are different as we will minimize the cost along with the development. Throughout the process, end users are greatly involved providing the feedback because we have to focus on the customer. So we have to take the feedback from our customer. So it reduce the risk of straying from the project goal because the customer will give us the feedback either the project is according to their needs or not. So the dynamic system model also features detailed documents which is lacking in the agile framework. So we are not only focusing the development, we also have to focus on the documentation. Feature driven development, like now we have to list down all the features of our project, like different functionality of our project will be decided, and then we will combine two or three features, and we will work on these features, then we will go towards the next features, then we will go towards the next features. So we are not dividing our project in chunks, we are dividing our project in the features. So its goal is simple to prevent the confusion that leads to the costly rework. So we will provide different features like whenever we are designing a website for the university or for the college, the first feature that must be ready in the start, that is the admission system. So we will develop that feature at the first, and we will give that working website to our customer, and after some time, with time to time, we will add different functionality or different features in that website. So it will be less chances to of the failure or rework. So FDD is sometimes mistaken that we are only focusing on the feature, but it is not. We are developing a working model at the start. So each of the features developers go through an iteration of planning, designing, and building. Typically, a feature should take no longer than 2 weeks to accomplish. So it will increase over speed. The outcome of FDD is quick, impactful results for each of the activities listed as features. This approach is meant for larger teams and information is communicated through the detailed documentation. Scrum development. Scrum is one of the most flexible software development methodology. In this methodology, we are dividing our team into three categories. The first one is Scrum Master, who will divide our project into sub uh, uh, problems are in the chunks. The second team will be a development team, and the third team will check either the person or the development team is doing their work properly or not. So we have divided our team into 3 categories, and every person is doing their work at their own. Development team will not waste their time in meetings and in collecting the requirements, or in focusing on the test, getting or and for the planning. So they are only working for the development, and each and every person is doing their work. So the product owner takes input from the client and ensures the team is on the track. That is a scrum master. Meanwhile, the scrum master acts as a facilitator if the person is facing any problem in the development, or for understanding of the design or understanding of the requirements. It will give the guidelines. The team takes charge of executing the development. So which makes scrum an ideal methodology in a fast-paced environment is how tasks are executed in sprints. So each sprints take up to 4 weeks. The speedy execution allows team to identify issues, introduce solutions, test, and gather the feedback in short period, because we are dividing over problems into sub problems in small chunks. So it makes tackling fast-paced project most easier, or much easier. So in the end, for the conclusion, we can say that the software development methodology provide a guided approach in which we will discuss these methodologies in detail in the coming lecture, so we can understand how they are giving us the guidelines, how we can build a software or any application. Because the early days of programming, we are using the different type of software, so we can say that they have been used and remain essential for the modern developers to do their work in an a directed way. While new methodology are introduced throughout the decades, there is not one who overcome the older one. So every methodology has its own pros and cons. So choosing the right software methodology depends on your team structure, experience, project requirement, goal, budget, and other underlying factors, time and requirements of the user, how much changes are required in that project. So according to some circumstances, we have to choose the methodology. Being a developer or a team leader, you have a better idea of which methodology fits your team best with the detailed description. So we have to decide according to all the circumstances which methodology will suits us most. Is there any confusion in the lecture? Okay. Take care then. If you have any issues, we will discuss in the next lecture, inshallah. Okay, take care. Have a nice day. Allah Hafiz.